Okay, the time is 7:01 p.m., and we will call the regular meeting of the Millcreek Township Board of Supervisors to order. We had already said the Pledge of Allegiance at the prior meeting, so we will just continue with our regular meeting here. Moving on to item number 2, public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Do we have any public comment on agenda items other than those two issues, those two matters, development or rezoning applications? Sir, if you would like to come forward.
That's the application hearings, Mr. Chair. It's just
Oh, application hearings, I'm sorry. Yep. If you would, please come forward.
You need to sign in, I believe.
If you would, please.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Dennis Dolan. I live at 1470 Taylor Ridge Court. Later in this meeting, the supervisors will consider a rezoning proposal for part of my land on Edinburgh Road. Because the supervisors voted to end the public comment on my request, I don't have a proper opportunity to present my full proposal here, so I'm told that I'm limited to about 5 minutes in what I have to say, so I've pared down what I have to the absolute essentials. It should be about 5 minutes, and I'd appreciate the opportunity to complete my comments, if possible. You can start the clock whenever you want.
Okay, excuse me one second. Mark, does this constitute testimony?
No,
No?
the hearing has closed.
The hearing is closed, so this is not testimony added to the record.
Correct. I understand that.
Okay. Okay.
So I own 6 acres of land along Edinburgh Road, State Route 99, currently a mix of C2, R2, and R1 zoning. In 2013, I originally petitioned the township to rezone all 6 acres to C4 zoning. At the time, the Planning Commission recommended for my request. However, the supervisors voted against at the time, citing a number of issues, mostly with traffic and flooding on Interchange Road, all of which have been addressed by the recent PennDOT improvements. My fall 2017 request was to rezone 5.7 acres only to C2, but it was tabled by the Planning Commission so that they could consider the new comprehensive plan and the Edinburgh and Hershey Road PennDOT corridor study. The new comprehensive plan concluded in August of 2018. The future land use portion of the plan calls for my properties on Edinburgh Road to be zoned single-family residential. In discussions with Supervisor Morgan and contacts and email explanations from the Planning and Zoning Office, there were 2 essential reasons cited for this. 1, the steering committee felt that the topography in the area created a natural buffer and was the logical place to halt the spread of commercial uses. Number 2, the steering committee's goal with the future land use plan is to limit development to areas where it's already established, to reduce infrastructure expansion, as well as to encourage redevelopment where infrastructure already exists. The Embrace Millcreek plan was a gargantuan effort, and I commend Millcreek and all those who worked on the study for a fantastic job overall. However, as with anything big and new, there can sometimes be kinks or rough edges that need to be worked out. To that point, I'd like to note at least a couple of inconsistencies in the single-family designation for the land along Edinburgh Road, mine and others. The new plan does not provide transition of zoning in this area. The new zoning map abruptly and immediately changes from the highest commercial level to the lowest residential. In the April 9th supervisors meeting, Mr. Morgan disagreed, stating that the topography of this area shows a clear delineation of where the regional commercial district has a natural endpoint. The natural endpoint he refers to is likely the large hillside, which was artificially created when the Millcreek Marketplace was carved out. The only other delineation I can envision might be the trees that are part of my property. Reading the topography really depends on one's location and perspective. Certainly, if you stand at the bottom of the highest part of the carved out hillside near the giant eagle, the hillside's enormous. However, from other perspectives, not so much. As you look south along this same hillside, along the border with my property, the hill's height continuously decreases to as low as 6 to 10 feet. When viewed from across up or down Edinburgh Road, there's no obvious topography that dictates any natural delineation, in my opinion. Edinburgh Road has a slight incline as it progresses south, and my properties are only slightly higher than the grade of Edinburgh Road. With regard to limiting commercial expansion, I believe that the Embrace Millcreek plan and statements by Supervisor Morgan in the previous meeting have mixed and conflicting messages with respect to business and retail expansion, especially in the Peach Street and the mall areas. To quote Mr. Morgan from that April 9th meeting, our comprehensive plan clearly states that we should not be creating more general commercial districts in the township. I'd like to point out at least one inconsistency with this. My example is less than half a mile away between Interstate 79 and Zook Road along Interchange Road and Zimmerly Road. Comparing the existing zoning and the new future land use zoning maps, you would see that there are numerous properties along this route that are changed from R1 and RR to mixed-use commercial. Granted, there are existing surrounding commercial properties, and this sort of just fills in, but this is an almost identical situation to my own properties. Also, I simply don't agree that Millcreek has too much commercial area, at least in the mall area. Millcreek is blessed and lucky to be geographically located in an area that supports
Mr.
commercial
Dolan?
activities, and most municipalities would be more than happy to have this problem.
Okay. Mr. Dolan, your 5 minutes are up there. I'm sorry. I don't know if you, yes, I'm sorry the beeper went off. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. We have anybody else? Any comments, questions on agenda items other than development or rezoning application hearings?
I also want to note for the record that the public hearing that you're referencing, Mr. Dolan, was held, was notified, and you were aware of the time and date and location of it. So I just want to make that clear for the public to know that we did not artificially close a hearing date to avoid your testimony, sir. We had a public hearing and you failed to attend it.
He wasn't available.
Okay, okay, please. What is your name? And
My name is Lorraine Dolan,
Okay.
and I live at 1470 Taylor Ridge Court.
Okay,
Your planning commission is comprised of many qualified people. They wear many hats. They come from a wide range of backgrounds: business, engineering, real estate, construction, education, and government. In their roles, they must be mediators, interpreters, visionaries, researchers, and community builders. They volunteer because they want to make Millcreek a better community. We all want that. The Planning Commission helped create the Embrace Millcreek Comprehensive Plan. The Planning Commission considered many factors, including the new comprehensive plan, as well as other information like our local economy, Dennis's presentation, which was well researched and studied, and the future of this community. In their informed opinions, they made the decision to support the rezoning by a 5-2 vote. They were given a job and they did it. This is the second time the Planning Commission supported the rezoning of the same property. My husband, Dennis, is a businessman and an employer. Both he and I were born and raised in Millcreek. We attended Millcreek schools. Dennis cares about this Erie community. He cares about Millcreek Township and the people around him, the residents in his neighborhood. This is where he used to live. He stays informed on relevant topics, he listens, and he maintains an open mind. Dennis decided to downsize the area requested to be rezoned almost in half, from 5.7 to 3.1 acres, in consideration of the neighbors and to minimize the element of change. He compromised. This is who he is. If I had to describe him, the words I would use would be logical, reasonable, and he compromises. The key for Dennis in consideration of his rezoning plan is how it can positively affect Millcreek Township. And this is evidenced by the decision of the Planning Commission. The request is not at all a blatant affront to the new plan. Actually, the property is right on the fringe of existing commercial activity and on a major state highway where commercial building makes sense. Does single-family housing along the stretch of Edinburgh Road make sense? So which one of our supervisors would like to build their home at Edinburgh Road and Interchange Road? We can talk afterwards. Finally, the comprehensive plan is not a law, or there would be no need for this discussion. It is a guideline, and it's the first important consideration, of the Planning Commission when making decisions. The Commission also looks at many other factors, though, and it votes with informed decisions based on all of the facts and the information they have to consider. You asked the Planning Commission to do a job, and they did it. They voted in favor of this rezoning 5-2. After hearing this case, and in spite of the plan, in this case, after hearing my case, or my husband's case, and apparently in spite of the plan, they deemed this rezoning to be proper and a good decision for the township and recommend it for approval. And we really hope that the supervisors will take the Planning Commission's advice. This has been a long road.
Thank you, Mrs. Dolan. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on agenda items? Okay, being none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Item number 3, approval of the minutes of our prior meeting. You have a chance to review them. I'm looking for an action to, or a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Is that correct? I can do that, Mark, even though I was not here? Just for the record, I was not at that meeting, but I am still able to vote for it.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, next item number 4, approval of the bills. Any questions or comments regarding the batch of bills that we've paid, or will be paying, that is? If there is none, I'll call for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, our next item number 5. It's a proclamation recognizing 50 years of service for the Chosen International Medical Assistance Group, which is just over here on the other side of the township building towards the back there, and the wonderful things that they do. Alice Niebauer, who serves on their board. Would you please come forward, Alice? If you could be over here, and I have a hard time walking down there. In case people didn't notice, I'm using a cane to walk, and I have a knee injury. So there's the camera right there. Let's see here. I'll do it this way. There we go. Everybody hear me okay? This is a proclamation from the Millcreek Township Board of Supervisors. Whereas in 1969, Richard and Edith Love founded Chosen International Medical Assistance to remedy deplorable health care conditions in economically deprived countries. And whereas for 50 years, Chosen MA, a nonprofit Christian international medical assistance ministry headquartered in Millcreek, has provided new and refurbished medical equipment to medical mission and Christian healthcare facilities serving 110 nations worldwide. And whereas Chosen sends volunteer teams on short-term mission trips around the world to install and repair equipment, develop and teach training programs in equipment operation and maintenance procedures, and provides instruction in operating room procedures, infection control, and sterilization in hospital environments. And whereas Chosen serves as a distribution center for home health care items for the local community and to help install and maintain temporary ramps to those that need assistance. And now therefore, let it be proclaimed by the Millcreek Board of Supervisors that we hereby honor Chosen International Medical Assistance in recognition of 50 years of service to the Erie community and to the world. Be it further proclaimed that we extend our heartfelt appreciation and gratitude and good wishes for continued future success, and witness, therefore, hereupon the seal of the Millcreek Township be affixed this 23rd day of April 2019, signed by the Millcreek Board of Supervisors. So congratulations, Alice, and for your organization. I know you serve on the board. There you go, right there. And you have some people. I know we were talking before the meeting, and you said, of course, you're the only one available to come here, because you have board members that are in Ghana right now, in Ghana, Africa, taking care of some medical equipment there, installing it, maintaining, or whatever they're doing over there. So let's pray for their health and safety coming back there too, and what they're doing over there. Thank you. Thank you so much. You want to say a word or two?
Sure.
I just wanted to thank you for recognizing Chosen and the amount of time they've put in and the effort that they've put forward. I think they've changed a lot of things within our local community
Yes.
and also around the world. But they are in Ghana right now working with the Presbyterian Church, the local church, to set up mission trips to go to Ghana, Africa, at a mission there. So they're over there right now setting that all up.
Okay.
But thank you for the recognition.
Thank you. Okay, take care. Thank you. Pass that down to Mark there. Okay, our next item on the agenda is item number 6. It's our first quarter financial presentation. Will be given by our treasurer, Mark Heskey. Mark, the floor is yours.
Thanks, John. All righty. Keeping with the process that started a couple of years ago. This thing never works that well anyhow, so this is going to be always a challenge. I'm working to show our results throughout the year so that there's fewer surprises when we get towards the end of the year and we start budgeting for the following year. So for the, and I've changed the charts, so anybody that's been here before for this stuff, we used to have 3D bar charts and they were really hard to figure out. And I've gone to pie charts because they seem to make far more sense. For 2019, most of our revenue for the first quarter has come from property taxes. That goes almost without saying. Things like state aid come once a year in September. That would be some of our grant money. And all the other activity is really kind of low in the first quarter. And the only reason we are doing as well as we are with the property taxes is that the county has produced the bills early, and our tax collector gets the bills out to people early, and she's transferred money to the township on several times a month, which she's not required to do. So that's helped keep the cash flow flowing. And actually, you can see we've collected far more in terms of a percentage this year than what our budget said we would do. But the other portions are all smaller because we're not that far along into the year. In comparison to last year, you can see the property taxes are the bulk of the revenue, and they're roughly the same percentage. We're slightly ahead by about looks like about $500,000 on the property tax collections at this point. The rate didn't go up, our assessed values didn't go up that much, so the property taxes are going to be relatively the same year over year. In terms of year-to-date expenses, public safety, once again, both we're running pretty close to budget. This is about 50%, or a little bit less than 50% of the total expenses for public safety. Public works, which is the streets, mechanical, and building maintenance for this portion of the budget, running a little bit better than budget, and the administrative expenses slightly over, but overall in pretty close comparison to the budget. In comparison to last year, once again, the numbers are fairly close. About half of the expenses are in the public safety area, and the next biggest expense, and we're actually running $2,000 better this year than last in public works. Some selected expenses. Salaries. The budget is $178, $351. The actual is $185, $866. That's mostly an accounting anomaly. There were actually 7 paid payrolls in the first quarter, but there's only 26 payrolls in the entire year, so that should catch up to itself by the second quarter results. In terms of health insurance, we're running a little bit better than budget. Other benefits, those are things like, well, FICA taxes and workers' comp. It's a little bit behind budget. Some of that's payroll related, and that should catch up with itself. And we're slightly behind on the legal expense for the first quarter. In terms of planning and development, salaries, we're below budget. There's some positions that still yet to be filled. Part of the reason why their actual is better than budget. Other benefits are running slightly better there as well, and that's once again tied to payroll. Public safety salaries are about $137,000, almost $138,000 below budget. That's good. That's keeping the overtime down. Health insurance is running to the good, almost $289,000. The other benefits are slightly up over budget. Some is payroll related, and that should catch up with itself. It's only $5,000 off. And then the contributions to the fire departments is low. The first quarter just ended. At the end of the year, anything that we hadn't paid out is set aside and will be, as the end of their end of the year stuff comes in, we've issued checks to them, but it actually went into last year's expense. The first quarter just ended, so we're only now getting reports from the fire departments. So most of this $60,000 is related to workers' comp that the township pays for the fire departments. Public Works, the salaries are running slightly better than budget. Health insurance is below. Snow removal expense, the budget just spreads that money out evenly throughout the year. Obviously, we're not buying salt in the second and third quarters, so that will ultimately catch up to itself. And so I'm not concerned about that particular number at this point in time, because we're not going to spend anything further. It'll be $200,000, and it's probably stay $249, and so we're almost back to even by the end of the second quarter. Public services, this is the recycling center and some of the health, senior health things that are taken care of here at the township building. The salaries are running slightly over budget, and that once again is they're all the 7 versus 6. And then the recycling costs are low. The recycling center only really got started back up again in mid-March, so it's to be expected that their expenses were low for the particular quarter. Parks and Rec, salaries are better than budget. They're heavily weighted towards the summertime, where we've got all the extra programs going on. So they will run a favorable variance at least through the second quarter, and then should even itself out a bit more. Health insurance is like right on budget, and we're self-insured, so that really depends on what claims are presented. And we try to take as a conservative approach as possible. You can see that some are well favorable and some not so much, but nonetheless, we're in pretty good shape overall. In terms of the sewer revenue fund, what I've got in comparison is the 2019 actual, 2019 budget, 2018 actual. And we see that the revenue is pretty much on track with the budget, and it's actually slightly better than 2018. The operating expenses are running slightly better than budget and much better than 2018. Administrative expenses are below. They're up. The administrative expenses were up over 2018, but that's due to absorbing some of the activity of the sewer authority into the sewer revenue fund. And then the well, it's not profit, but revenue over expense is running ahead of both budget and 2018. some selected activity. Sewer rental income is $2,509,000, a budget of $2,433,600, and 2018 at 2,338. Part of the reason for 2019 actual being up, there's been a higher level of billing to the commercial accounts. It means more commercial activity, which is a good thing. And then there were some refunds in 2018 that lowered that number. Wages are running, there are only 6 payrolls in theirs, but they had 7 in the budget and 7 in 2018. So it's one of those accounting anomalies. Maintenance and repairs are running better than last year, or better than the budget, and much better than 2018. And utilities are over budget, but in line with where we would be in 2018. The administrative expenses, sewer improvements, this is the new sewer line. The reality is you're not building anything in the first quarter. It's hard to dig holes in frozen ground. That actually should have probably been scheduled further out. The expense will catch up with the budget as we go further down the process. That was basically approved, I think, at the 26th of March meeting. Machinery and equipment is running a little bit behind. One of the items that was in the capital budget was the jetter truck, and unbeknownst, it's taken forever to get the chassis, the actual truck part of it, built. So that's probably not going to end up being spent until the latter part of this year. In terms of the capital plan, we had $4,201,000, almost $202,000 in the budget. So far, we've committed only $536,000. It leaves about $3.666 million uncommitted. It's hard to get a lot of the projects started early in the year. Some have, but some of the bigger ticket items haven't been undertaken. Things like road paving you can't do in the wintertime. And there's a variety of other projects that were on the list that will move forward as we move further down the year. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. As Mark mentioned there, this is something that we've been doing the last 3 years, I believe, to help public know with full transparency how our budget situation is, where we're spending money, where we might be overspending, maybe where we're underneath too. So a lot of work goes into that, and we do this quarterly. Okay, moving on. Item number 8, bids and quotations. First,
Number 7.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry there. Item number 7. And we have some capital budget amendments. Mark, do you want to talk about
Yes.
those? Yes.
There is a project proposed by Public Works. They need a laser pipe sighting system that wasn't in the budget. The cost of the project is $4,000. Previously, there was a favorable balance when they purchased the lowboy trailer. So they had $8,963.34 in reserve from that particular project. So we're going to apply, I'm proposing that 4,000 of that 8,000, almost 9,000, be applied to the pipe light sighting system, and then the balance, 4,963.34, be put back to reserve for other projects that may come up throughout the year.
Okay. Okay. Any questions or comments on that?
Mr. Snyder, is this a replacement of a broken piece of equipment, or is it new equipment that the department is bringing on?
Okay. Okay. Any other questions regarding this amendment? If not, I'll hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the capital budget amendment request.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, now, we're under bids and quotations. Request for proposals, bank loan for equipment purchase. Mr. Jaheski.
Yes, we received 4 bids, which is double the amount we received for the first round of financing. We received bids, a bid from First National Bank with an interest rate of 3.25%. Closing and dock fees are $2,500. Acceptance, leasing, and financing, their interest rate was 3.999%. They had no fees. Northwest Bank had an interest rate of 4.78%. There was a 0.5% loan origination fee and a $145 dock fee. And then Erie Bank had a 3.185% interest rate, and documentation fees were $600. It would be my recommendation that we we obtain the loan from Erie Bank at 3.185% pursuant to their proposal. This is for the this is for the sweeper and the refuse truck for the Parks and Rec Department.
Okay. Okay. Questions from the board? Being none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to select Erie Bank.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item, crushed wash number 57 stone, joint purchasing award from Public Works and Public and Planning and Development Departments. Yes, Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, this was a bid placed by the Council of Governments for 10 municipalities. It included many different types and grades of stone. The one that we were interested in purchasing was type C, number 57s. The bids came back with 2 different low bidders, depending on whether the material was picked up on the supplier site or delivered to the township. So our recommendation would be that we award the purchase of type C, number 57, crushed washed aggregate to Gertz for any aggregate picked up by the township at their supply yard, which is located at 765 Baker Rink Road in Clymer, New York. And that low bid was $8.48 a ton. And we recommend that we award to ACA Sand and Gravel for any aggregate that is delivered to the township yard for a price of $15 per ton.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? Being none, I'll entertain a motion. Your motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item is a pipe laser from the Public Works Department. Gary.
Thank you, gentlemen. We are seeking permission to buy a new pipe laser for laying storm sewer pipe.
Okay.
The one we had no longer works and can't be repaired.
Okay.
We received 3 quotes. One was from, this is a Spectre DG613. We received a quote from Granger for $4,910.86. From Tiger Supply for $4,017 even. And from Madera Equipment for $4,000 even. It would be my recommendation that we purchase the laser from Madera Equipment for $4,000.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we purchase the equipment from Madera Equipment for $4,000.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Next item is a solids grinder from the Public Works and Sewer Department. Gary.
Yes, this is rebuilt parts for the grinder we have at the Wolf Road Station. The work will be done by the township.
Okay.
As far as rebuilding it, this is repair parts only. It would be a CoStar's contract number 391234 from JWC Environmental, and it would be the cost of $19,312. And I would recommend we purchase these prices, but this is from JWC Environmental.
Okay, and they are a CoStar's contractor then, too?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase from JWC Environmental for the cost of $19,312.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item is the sale of a 1994 dump truck from the Public Works Streets Department. Gary, once again.
This is another one of our antiques on the hill. We have a gentleman interested in it. It is a 1994 white GMC dump truck, VIN number 5436. The gentleman that would like to purchase it is David M.C., and the selling price would be $1,999. This truck was also advertised for bids earlier with no takers on it.
Okay.
So we would seek permission to sell it to him for
Okay.
$990.
He bought another one like this before, right? Okay, same. This is for the parts here. Okay, so he's going to make it street operational, the other one. Okay. Okay. Any questions from the board here? If not, I'll call for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the sale of 1994 white GMC pickup dump truck to David M.C. for a selling price of $1,999.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I will second that.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, let's see here. Next item is additional services for the Wolf Run Drive Emergency Storm Sewer Project from the Planning and Development Department. Matt or Ann? Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, we have two items related to the Wolf Run Drive Emergency Storm Sewer Project. Just some background that following the discovery this spring of some erosion at the site, Township Engineer Ann Sokol has worked with the project's designer, civil and environmental consultants, CEC,
yeah.
on potential solutions. CEC has proposed additional corrective measures, a design for such, and inspection of the work as it takes place. Their estimated fees for these additional services are $10,625, and it is the recommendation of Ms. Sokol that CEC be retained for the additional services, with the board agreeing to pay an amount not to exceed $10,625. And I ask that the board authorize this additional service agreement, and that the chairman be authorized to sign the attached authorization agreement.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Anybody? Okay, call for a motion on this. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to agree to the service contract with CEC for the additional engineering services, amount not to exceed $10,625, and to authorize the chairman to sign such authorizing agreements.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next.
I have
I'm sorry.
one more
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Relative to that. Following a submission of the work plan from CEC, that was passed on to the contractor Shivers Construction Company for a quote to perform the work. Shivers returned a quote to us today in the amount of $143,880. Upon review of the quote, Ms. Sokol believes that it's possible that we could get a good portion of the items, or a sizable portion of the items removed from this, that maybe they were a little over the top, but they gave us a worst case scenario. In concern for the time required that we need to do this, we would ask that the board approve this agreement with Shivers in an amount not to exceed the $143,880, with the knowledge that Township Engineer Sokol would work with them to reduce the amount as much as possible.
Okay. Mr. Shaw, any comments on that?
There are several categories a couple of the categories are contingencies.
Okay.
That are, I think the one is $22,500, and another one I think is in the $5,000 range that we don't expect to incur.
Okay.
But it probably makes sense to have them there just so in case we need to use, because we have a unit price on it, so if we need to use the material, we at least have the unit price set for it. And I think it makes sense to keep that, but with the recognition that hopefully the final number will be much lower than the $143,000.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, given the timing and the need to do the repairs before any additional damage occurs, really doesn't leave the township with a whole lot of options, given that scenario.
Okay. I guess with that said, any questions or comments from the board members here?
And I would add that this would be an amendment to their existing contract, which was still open.
Okay. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, this is not on the agenda, am I right? Or was it?
It was one of the additional services for
Oh.
Wolf.
Oh, okay, it was one, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, don't need any public comment. Okay, call for a motion on this. Not to exceed, what, $143,880?
$808.
Do I hear a motion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the amended contract with Shivers for services related to the Wolf Run Drive Emergency Storm Sewer Project for a cost not to exceed $143,880.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, next item, announcement of bids received and award of contract road culvert replacement contract from the Planning and Development Department. Matt Waldinger again.
Thank you. Yeah, a culvert on Conrad Road, north of Norcross, near Brooksboro, has deteriorated to the point that it's a safety hazard and needs to be replaced. The township, through the board, did contract with Mark Corey to prepare the design and bid out the project. We had, there were 10 contractors that were interested and took out bid documents. 2 chose not to give a bid, but we did have 8 total bids received. They were opened here on April 18th, 2019 at 3 p.m. The bids that the township received were Amendola Development Company in the amount of $152,923. Shingle Decker Welding Incorporated in the amount of $115,738. Dan Beck Well Services in the amount of $106,000. Consul Construction in the amount of $95,500. Mayer Brothers Construction for $89,354. North Rock Construction for $84,474. Ray Showman Jr. Excavating for $71,903.82. And McClellan Construction in the amount of $58,122.50. It would be the recommendation of the engineering department that the contract be awarded to McClellan Construction in the amount of $58,122.50. This was a budgeted capital project in the Public Works budget. The amount of the budget was $85,000, so we've so far come in low depending on any change orders that may come through.
Okay, does that seem like a good, Dan?
Yeah, we checked all the math has been checked. Mark Corey also sent a recommendation letter after he did his final
Okay.
check on all the math. and
Yeah.
everything.
Okay, so no mathematical errors or anything, so, okay.
Out of orders, and we have been in touch with McClellan, and they're comfortable with their price.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. So the recommendation is McClellan Construction at $58,122.50. That the recommendation? Okay. Okay, any questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to award the contract for the Conrad Road culvert replacement to McCallum Construction for the bid price of $58,122.50.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, and how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, next item is mowing contract for the Code Enforcement Department. Matt?
Thank you. Yeah, the code enforcement has been working with Zeller Property Services over the last couple of years in order to provide services for properties where there is an abandonment of the property, nobody's taking care of it, we have an absentee owner, but we can't contact. This contract would formalize that agreement with them. It would bring them in line with the rest of our contracted services. It does list prices based on the different forms of maintenance that's required, whether it's something neglected, needs to be taken down, from a deteriorated state, whether it's a maintenance, just a mowing to keep it up once it's been corrected.
Okay.
It lists all of those services, so we would recommend that we approve this contract with Zeller for the stated amounts in the scope of services.
Okay. They'll only be used as needed, is that correct?
Yes, correct, as needed, and the amount, once the amount reaches $100 per property, then that amount is placed as a lien on the property.
Okay.
To be paid
Okay.
back to the town.
Mark, you got
And
a comment?
it's a not to exceed total of $4,000.
Okay.
And then the services for neglected service, debris removal, and additional services are at $35 per hour of labor, and the maintenance service is $25 per hour of labor.
Okay.
And in each instance, there's limitations on the amount of time they can do it without approval of the township.
Okay. Okay, then, any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the service contract with Zellers.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 9, an action on a petition requesting a change in zoning classification. This was tabled from the April 9th meeting for Dennis M. Dolan and Mikovac LLC for portions of properties located at 2226 and 2240 Edinburgh Road and property located north of 2226 Edinburgh Road, now zoned R1 and R2, asking for an approximately 3.1 acres to be classified as C2 General Commercial. Okay. Matt Waldinger, tell us what you know.
Yeah, thank you. At the regular meeting of March 5th, 2019, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission by a 5-2 vote did recommend approval of this rezoning request. We also received a letter from the Erie County Planning Department that said that it was generally consistent with the county planning future land use, but inconsistent with the Millcreek Township future land use.
Okay. What about the Township Planning Department? Do they have a recommendation on this?
Yes, our recommendation is that this is inconsistent with the new future land use map, and we would recommend that it not be approved.
Not be approved because it's not consistent with the comprehensive plan, the Township Comprehensive Plan.
Correct.
And yet we have the Township Comprehensive Plan and then the County Comprehensive Plan for future land use, we're
Yes.
talking. Those maps are different.
If I can
The
clarify.
county generally designates any area that has sewer or water service as a future growth or future development area.
Right, okay, yeah. John, you were going to say something? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I just want to clarify, I worked county planning for about 10 years.
Mhm.
The land use map for the county is very general. Essentially,
Okay.
there's only 2 categories. It's either recommended for development or not recommended
Not
for development.
recommended, yes.
So whereas a municipal land use map actually delineates what different uses are appropriate for different
Right.
areas of a township or municipality, the county land use map is simply should be developed or not developed, doesn't specify whether or not certain use is appropriate for that area.
Right. Yeah, and that's the information I was trying to get on the record here for this. Okay, we have the applicants. Would you like to come forward again here, sir? Would- Please come forward. Of course, you're Mr. Dolan and Mrs. Dolan?
Yes.
You're the owners of the properties there in question. Anything else that is relevant to this matter at hand? Is there anything else that's relevant to this matter at hand? I'm sorry if I'm not speaking loud enough. I'll pull the microphone closer.
Not to hear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
As far as your
Better
Mr.
now.
Morgan
Okay,
comments.
yeah. I generally talk loud. I try to keep it a little quieter in here, so, okay.
No,
I'm sorry.
I believe that between the two of us, we had a chance to say, for the most part, what we came to say today. Unfortunately, I would have liked to have the opportunity to present my entire plan, but I do understand that based on how things have gone and because I
Okay.
wasn't here at the previous meeting, that I don't have that opportunity. So
Okay,
I understand and I respect that.
okay,
I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
okay. Okay, the plan is just for rezoning. There is no land development plan associated with this, nothing on the works right now, is that correct?
Not at this
Not
time.
that that has a whole lot of bearing on this, you know,
Right.
so, okay.
Basically, it's very, very difficult to try to plan anything when it's not already properly zoned.
Okay, okay, okay. Matt Waldinger.
Yes.
You said the vote at the Erie Millcreek Township Planning Commission, 5-2.
Correct.
The two that were in opposition to this, did they give any reason? I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot here, but what was their reasons versus those who
They said
supported it?
The comprehensive plan and the future land use map, that it was not,
Okay.
in coordination with those.
Okay, and then, of course, the Township Zoning Department in their recommendation was no, because it's inconsistent. Okay, okay, okay.
Well, I want to stress, Mr. Dolan, the presentation that you provided to the Planning Commission, what was provided to the Board of Supervisors and was, and can be incorporated into the
sorry,
public.
I-
The presentation you provided to the Planning Commission?
Yeah.
That is part of their public record, so just so you know, your presentation is documented and preserved for the record.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay. Mark, do we get any more comments from the public, if there are anybody out there wanting to, no, because the testimony is over on
Yes,
this.
the
This is just
hearing
applic-
was held and
what I
concluded
thought.
at the last board meeting. At this point, all that's left is for the supervisors
Okay.
to take action.
Okay.
And I would note that should the supervisors be inclined to approve it, there is a requirement in the MPC that any amendments to the zoning ordinance be consistent, or that any amendments to the zoning ordinance that are inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, that the comprehensive plan be concurrently amended when that vote occurs.
Okay. Okay, with that said, I should probably call for a motion on this application. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes.
Call for call for a motion on it. Do I hear a motion to take action on this rezoning application?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Dolan adequately quoted me earlier in his comments, so I will make the motion to deny the zoning request.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
I second that.
Okay. Any further discussion among the board? Okay. Call for the vote. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes to the denial.
Vote yes on the denial. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes on the denial.
Okay. Well, I guess it really doesn't matter what I do, but I'm just going to vote no on the denial. So it still passes, or it's denied by 2-1 margin. Okay. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Dolan. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item, item number 10. It is a land development plan by Villa Maria Academy for the tennis courts. Mr. Laird. I see you walking up here. Either that or you're a tennis player, I'm not sure.
Not a very good tennis player, I can tell you that. I'm here tonight on behalf of Villa Maria Academy and the contractor for this project.
If you could please, just for the record, state your name.
I'm sorry, Mark. John Laird, David Laird Associates, 1557 West 26th Street, Erie, PA.
Thank you.
So again, I am here tonight on behalf of Villa Maria Academy for this project. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the area that this project is proposed in, but this area sits basically behind the school, immediately south. There's a parking lot, and then this facility was previously used as a soccer field, and now with this project will be turned over and turned into a tennis court facility with your approval. I'm here happy to answer any questions you might have. We did receive comments from the Conservation District and from GPI regarding stormwater. We have addressed those comments and have resubmitted those.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Walding, any comments from the Planning Commission?
Yes, at their April 2nd, 2019 meeting, The Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of the land development plan, just with the following requirement that they'd like the acreage of the development to be indicated on the drawing.
Okay. Okay. We'll have public comment here. Okay.
That's another question I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and Jim?
This is just your standard tennis court surface.
To my knowledge, yes. A step above concrete, but I don't think it's anything special outside of a standard tennis court surface, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else, sir, Mr. Laird? Nothing else? I will be taking some comments from the audience here. Anybody wishing to speak in regard to this matter, please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Kimberly Mikowski. I live at 4606 Asbury Road. My question is, why doesn't Villa pay for it? Why does Millcreek have to pay for it?
I'm sorry, Ms. McCoskey, Millcreek's not paying for this.
I'll go sit back down.
Oh, it's okay, yeah, no, this is just.
I'm sorry.
This is just the approval
I'm like,
for.
Wait a minute.
It's a land development plan.
Yeah, this is just our approval for them to
let 'em do it.
construct it, yeah, absolutely.
No.
Sorry, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, sir.
Oh, no problem.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks
no
for keeping an
problem.
eye on us, we appreciate it.
Yes. Okay. Any other comments or questions from the audience here? Being none, I'll call for a motion on this. I hear a motion.
I make a motion to approve the land development plan.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Okay, and so do I, vote yes. Okay, thank you. Next item, item number 11, new and amended ordinances under review. Do we have anything coming out of?
I think there's just that proposed zoning ordinance amendment, the correction of the, I think it was the lot size.
Yeah, the minimum area for R2.
Okay.
That's the only pending one that's currently under review.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's regarding, there was a, kind of an error the last time zoning code was
Correct.
updated, so this would just be correcting that error to actually allow denser development in R2 as ought to, instead of holding R2 the same standard as R1, is that?
Well, inadvertently, by including the R2 in the chart that it was added to, it doubled the requirement. Rather than being per lot, it turned it into per unit, which in effect doubled the requirement. So this would just be a correction.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And if I recall, the sign ordinance amendments, we're still working on that?
Yes,
Is
we're
that
still
correct?
working on it.
Okay.
Mr. Waldinger, as far as the R2 amendment, is that going for the planning commission next month, or has that been for the planning commission?
It was actually recommended, suggested by the planning commission to make the change. So it just goes to the governing body. I believe it's proposed for the May 14th meeting to come before the board. Is that correct, Mark? Do you know?
I don't recall. I thought it was on the upcoming planning commission meeting agenda.
I would have to check, but it's not up for action right now.
Yeah, I think it's on the next planning committee, planning commission meeting agenda to review and make a recommendation.
This is just a status report, folks, in case you're wondering what the discussion is about. Just letting you know that we are looking at an amendment to a zoning ordinance, so, and no official action being taken at this time, so. Okay, item number 12 is Resolution 2019 R24, a resolution pursuant to R 2015 R20 and the Municipal Records Manual to approve the proposed disposition of certain township records. Mr. Zahaski, you have information on that.
Yes, that's the disposal of dash cam videos that have reached their expiration date between now and the next meeting date of May the 14th. These are videos that have been held more than 181 days, and this is a routine request.
Okay, no paper documents on this one, or I don't, wait, I think there are. Yes, we have some paper documents here too, if I'm reading this right. Some lien satisfaction notes, property ownership change, and some HR records. Okay, I think that's it. So that would be all included.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have those documents as included with this resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hear a motion? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-R-24.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 13, the 2019 paving list from the Public Works Department.
Gentlemen, you have before you the 2019 paving list. As per the requirement, it has to be voted on, and we're submitting this for your okay so that we can move forward with this as far as getting contracts out and making this the one that we can put up on the website.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board here? If not, I'll call for a motion on that and discussion.
I'll move to adopt the 2019 paving list.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? I just want it to be known that there was a list made up per the policy that we enacted, I think 3 years ago, the Board of Supervisors, in which we would have the Streets Department foreman, the crew go out and rate the roads and determine how that was going to, which ones had a priority. And it seems that we're doing it contrary to that, although I'm not disagreeing that these roads are in bad condition. I'm going to agree with that there. But we also had the other roads. It would be certainly nice if we could have done both sets of roads, but we'd be doubling our amount of roads that we're going to pave. That, I think, is where a bigger problem lies, in the fact that maybe we're not paving, not maybe, we are not paving enough roads each year. And this is why we're falling behind on it. So I just wanted to make that comment for the record here. I will say that I support what we're doing on this, but I wish we could have put the other ones on there too. And I think that list was put out to the public already. So we're going to be taking some grief from the public, I think. I hope I'm wrong on that one. So anyway, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I just want to clarify your comments, Mr. Groh. There wasn't a list this year released. We did approve a 2-year list last year, 2018-19 list, of 2018 being the actual current year and 2019 being a proposed planning year for the purposes of budgeting. We did receive a list, and I believe the board, at least myself and Mr. Bach, actually did a tour of those roads with Mr. Snyder and Mr. Kern, our Director of Public Works, and our Streets Bureau Chief. And we did determine that perhaps some of the evaluations weren't consistent with the intentions of the evaluations. And about 2 miles, it wasn't the entire list, about 2 miles of roadway were determined to be not in as dire disrepair as the 2 miles that were placed on. Is that an accurate discussion, Gary? So yeah, the list changed. As I think Mr. Snyder and Mr. Kern will tell you, conditions can change drastically over a season. And I think, Mr. Bach, I don't know if you have any comments, but I think the list that Mr. Snyder and Mr. Kern, I commend them for adapting and not just paving roads because they're on the list, and even if they didn't need it. So I appreciate them being willing to relook at that list and amend it as appropriate so we're not tearing up good pavement.
Right. Yeah, my only comment would be that, there were some roads in some select residential neighborhoods that were initially on the proposed tentative list that after reevaluating those, we just felt that those were roads that were in more than passable condition. They were good roads, and we felt that we could put those off to the future, and we incorporated some other roads that were, in our reevaluation, were definitely in need of attention this year. So that's what we got. I agree with Mr. Groh. We sure would like to do it all, but there's only so much time and so much money in the budget to do this. But I personally am very happy with the list we've adopted here, and hopefully we can even you know, maybe add a few more, depending on, you know, how this goes. And with future, there's talk of possibly, don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but adding a third bid package or a small amount of roads. So there could be some additions to this as well.
Right. We have over 210 miles of township-maintained roads. So we have quite a daunting task of keeping those things maintained. And folks, we do drive on those same roads as everybody else does. We know where the potholes are. I'm not trying to be funny about that. We do have crews out patching all the time, weather permitting, of course. And so this is a never-ending project that we'll be working on. And as I mentioned 3 years ago, when we come up with this policy, which I think is a great policy, that no longer are we going to be doing political paving, I think as it was coined. In other words, call your favorite supervisor and get that street on the list. That's, you know, we used, not outside people, used the foremen that drive these roads and repair them, have them do a rating system on it. I think that was a great thing. I hope we continue to do that. But as I said, at that same time, it's very subjective. What you may think is a bad road, we may not, and vice versa. So this is where the controversy always starts. And as you can see, there's disagreement among us here. So, but the majority will rule on this one. So anyway, are we done? I'm done talking about it. I'm sorry if I belabor this matter. So if not, I'll call for a vote. John Morgan, how do you vote?
Well, yes, to approve the 2019 paving list. And thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Snyder, for your work on it.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes as well.
Okay, and I will vote yes, but reluctantly, but I would like to see more. And I'll just say that condition on it. So we'll leave it at that. Okay. Item number 14 is the early intervention grant agreement for Phase 2. And is it, John, you're going to handle that, or is Mr. Zaheski? Or am I?
I'd be happy to handle that.
Okay.
Gentlemen, as you know, we were awarded a grant from the state for approximately $70,000 to go towards Phase 2 of our early intervention program initiative. We completed our early intervention program report last year. It was adopted as part of the comprehensive plan. Phase 1 is a evaluation of current conditions in the township, which comes up with recommendations for improvements to operations, ordinances, other kinds of administrative and financial updates. Phase 2 is where you can actually request funds from the state to start implementing those things. We did put an application in last year for $200,000. The state awarded us $70,000, which we very much appreciate. Those funds will go towards updating our zoning ordinance to essentially start enacting the Embrace Millcreek Comprehensive Plan proactively, and also to update our inventory software to help us better track our capital needs here at the township. This contract is simply our agreement with the state regarding that grant award. So I would make a motion to adopt this contract and authorize the chairman to sign the authorizing documentation.
Okay. Any other questions? You make that in the form of a motion, John, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 15 is the Yorktown Center Settlement Agreement. Mr. Shaw, I'm sorry. Mr. Shaw.
Sure. This is a settlement agreement of a tax assessment appealed filed by Yorktown Station LLC with respect to their property located at 2501 West 12th Street. They filed it initially in 2015 when the assessment of the property increased by nearly $8 million. The parties to the agreement include the school district, Millcreek Township School District, the county, and the assessment board. I think to date both the school district and the county have approved this, and essentially in the settlement they agreed to an assessment amount essentially that requires ultimately a refund of approximately refund of $17,095.07 from the township, covering the tax years of 2015 through 2019. So the average each year is $2,000 or $3,000 each year to to $4,000 each year to cover that total amount. So I would recommend that the township approve this settlement agreement.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? Not a call for a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Yorktown Center settlement agreement?
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Item number 16, financial security release request for Erie Homes for children and adults on Gorman Road. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you. Yeah, the Planning and Development Department has received a request from Erie Homes for Children and Adults to release the financial security they provided for the home that they built on Gorman Road. They had provided previously to the township a check from PNC Bank, check number 11172017, in the amount of $91,867 as financial security for the required improvements, which include the stormwater management system and sidewalks. We did have GPI, our contracted third party, go out and give us a final inspection of the property, and they noted 3 issues. The first 2, there is a pipe and a catch basin that were installed at slightly different elevations, but GPI has assured us that the system should still operate as designed, so there are no issues with that. They just wanted it on the record, and they indicated that 2 sections of the sidewalk were not complete. Our township inspector, Rob Donikowski, visited the site and verified that the sidewalk was complete, and we got an approval from BIU, but he did note that some final grading had not been complete, and vegetative cover, or the grass, had not yet been established over the system. And so it is the recommendation of Township Engineer Ann Sokol that the township deny the release of the letter of credit, but she recommends that in its place, the township would approve a reduction of the letter of credit to the 10% mark, which would mean the township would retain $9,189.70 as security.
Okay. Questions or comments? Not? Call for a motion.
So the challenge is the vegetative cover. We're confident that,
I don't rate the vegetative cover because it all incorporates, it's water flow to this stormwater management system, it must be replaced.
and push comes to shove, if we were to do this ourselves, the 9,187 would cover that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Jim, any questions?
No, sir.
Not a call for a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny the request, but authorize a reduction to 10% of the current value, which would be reducing it to $9,189.70 as recommended by the township engineer.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Item number 17, communications. Treasurer, Mark Jaheski, do you have anything?
I have nothing further.
Okay. John Morgan, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay. Summer help?
Oh, you want me to do that? Okay.
I don't know, because that's HR. I didn't know if you...
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was... Okay.
Summer help. We have summer help in the traffic and electrical division of Public Works. This would be approve the hire of Jacob Shamera at a rate of $8.45 per hour. Mr. Snyder, would you want to clarify? I was unaware of this hire, gentlemen, and,
Oh, okay.
and to be honest, Mr. Shamera, is this the son of one of our police officers? Gentlemen, I would move to table this for further discussion with our HR staff.
Okay.
Young Mr. Shamera is the son of a relative of mine by marriage, so I believe it may violate our nepotism policy.
Okay. Okay, we can table that one. We do have another one on there, John, for the sewer department, sewer maintenance, summer help. We could probably act on that. We can hold that one for Mr. Shamera, and then take the action on the other one there for, let's see, the name is Nicholas Tyler, or Langford Tyler, I'm sorry, Nicholas Langford Tyler. Want to take action on that?
That would be for the position of summer help
Yeah.
in sewer maintenance for a rate of $8.45 an hour
Mhm.
to be hired May 6, 2019 until August 23rd, 2019.
Okay. Okay, put that in form of a motion. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. That is for Nicholas Langford Tyler, Cheryl. The other one for Mr. Shamera will be tabled until our
And
next
again,
meeting.
gentlemen, I apologize
No
if there's
problem.
someone aware of
No, we gotta-
this potential hire.
I understand that, yeah. And let's see, I'll tell you what, I'll do the next one here for Parks and Recreation, employee approval. This comes from Ashley Marsteller. And this would be for the following employees who requested part-time seasonal maintenance help for the Parks Department. Joe Kimball, he's a new hire, and Sean Marsden, he is a returning employee. She's recommending the approval of the hiring for both of them for seasonal part-time maintenance. And of course, the time schedule will be the same way, May through August 23rd. The rate for Joe Kimball is $10 an hour, and so these numbers must be reversed. Marsden, I think, is 10, and Joe Kimball is $7.95. That's what it is, yes. Okay, so I put that in a form of, I will make the motion on that there. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. And executive sessions, we had executive sessions with our solicitor to discuss some legal matters on April the 12th and April 18th. And that's all I have. Student ambassador, or Jim, I'm sorry, do you have anything, Jim, from the police? Anybody?
All's quiet in the police department.
Okay.
No
We like-
requests.
We like to hear that. That means we're not spending money. Okay. Okay. Sean, or Shane, I'm sorry, Shane.
It's okay. A few things about McDowell. With the end of the school year approaching, we only have a few opportunities for standardized testing. The last two tests for the SAT will be held May 4th and June 1st, and the last ACT test will be June 8th. A few more things. First is AP testing is also coming up, so study for those if you're enrolled in those classes. More than that, we also want to wish a good luck to the DECA team at McDowell. A few of their students are traveling to Orlando this weekend for nationals. Thank you.
Good. Good news. Yep. Mr. Shaw, you have something for us.
Yes, I do. Actually, a couple of things. First relates to an issue that occurred at the Millcreek Golf and Learning Center. There was a pipe break over the winter at in the clubhouse, which did some damage, but it also apparently used a fair amount of water. We were contacted by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, who operates the treatment plant on the property. And apparently the water that is fed to the clubhouse goes through their system. It's not separately metered, but it's metered through the DEP meter, comes up off of 12th Street. And their water bill for the quarter that covered the time period where the break occurred went from, it was $255 the previous quarter to $1,792.16 for the quarter that covered the time period where we had the water break. And so they sent an email to Ashley Marsteller requesting that the township compensate them for the additional water bill that they're having to pay. I think the difference between the last quarter and this quarter would be $1,536.76. The bill does reflect their usage in the prior quarters, which are all fairly consistent. They used 9 CCF the one quarter, 11 CCF a quarter, 6 CCF a quarter, and then the quarter that covered the time period where the water line broke, 218 CCF. So it's kind of hard to say that something unusual didn't happen from our perspective, and certainly we know we had a water break and it did some damage internally. So I think the they've made that request, and I put that before the board to consider and decide whether, how they want to respond to it.
Okay. You don't need any action from us right now, do you? Or would you prefer us?
You could certainly, I think, take action and approve, a payment maybe not to exceed the $1,536.76, pending our investigation and confirmation that in fact that's an appropriate amount. But I think it's going to be hard to contest that, that it wasn't somehow related to our water main break.
Okay.
The only question may be is what would their bill have been?
Right.
And based upon the prior usages, the 255 of the prior quarter might be a little bit low than what they had done before because the water usage was a little lower than the prior 2 quarters, but I'm not sure how much you're really talking about, a few dollars in the end.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll call for a motion on this matter here, or, whatever that motion might be. Anybody? Any thoughts?
Well, I don't think the request from DEP is unreasonable. I guess I am a little concerned that we share a meter with them, that this kind of a issue could exist.
Yeah.
I was surprised as well. I was involved in the original construction of that setup, and I frankly thought there were 2 separate meters. But I know Ashley was confirming that, and Gary, I don't know if you have.
Gentlemen, if I might, when the clubhouse was originally built, the water system was owned by the city of Erie, and at that time, the city of Erie would not grant us a separate water connection because the water comes off of 11th Street.
Yep.
Or 13th Street, excuse me. And so the only way we could get water to the clubhouse was to tap off of that line and meter it that way. That was the only way we could get water at that time. So that's why everything comes off that one line.
It's fascinating.
Certainly is.
And I'm not sure we've ever gotten a bill from the department, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Whenever, when the golf course was fully operating, I don't know that,
Okay.
we ever got a bill.
Well, don't say that.
Okay. So did you make a motion on that?
I don't think it's unreasonable for us to
Okay.
to pay the bill, so I'll make a motion
motion.
to authorize payment of an amount not to exceed $1,536.76 to the PADEP related to the water bill for the Millcreek Golf and Learning Center.
Yep. Once we know for sure that's what it is at the maximum, but we're going to try to work that down, so. Bear, second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
How about yes?
And I also vote yes. Any other good tidings from you?
Yes, of course.
Oh, gee, here we go. Okay.
At the last Fire Commission meeting on, I believe it was let's see, what day was it, the 17th, last Thursday? There were 2 recommendations that came out of that meeting from the Fire Commission to the supervisors. The first recommendation regards the township assuming responsibility for performing routine vehicle maintenance on fire department vehicles, and the commission identified 9 kind of items and guidelines that would go along with that. The recommendation was the byproduct of a subcommittee that was formed to address the issue that consisted of the chairman, Randy Lachowski, Jerry DeRosa from West Ridge, Joe Yatzer, and Gary Snyder, both of the township. The gist essentially is that the recommendation is for the township to assume the basic maintenance of the department vehicles, and there are various conditions and so forth that are laid out in the recommendation. I think at this point I'm just simply passing the recommendation along to the supervisors for their consideration, and I don't believe any action at this point is necessary, as the supervisors will need time to digest and review the specifics of the recommendation.
Okay.
And then the second recommendation relates to the it was actually April 18th was the date of the meeting. They voted to recommend the following to the supervisors regarding the purchase of SCBA's for the Kearsarge Fire Departments. First part of the recommendation was for the township to agree to loan $152,051 to the Kearsarge Fire Department for the purchase of SCBA's as reflected in a quote that they obtained from Fire Force to the Kearsarge Fire Department dated April 16 of 2019. I believe you may have received an email earlier today with that information. They also recommended that the loan not be paid from LST funds, that the term of the loan be between 5 and 7 years as may be agreed upon by the township and the fire department, and that the balance of the terms of the loan agreement otherwise be negotiated between the township and the Kearsarge Fire Departments. Several questions were asked of Kearsarge with respect to backup information relating to these, and I believe that was communicated to the supervisors in an email. I think it went out either late last night to the supervisors. The only issue with respect to this is there is a time period relating to when the SCBA's have to be ordered. As I understand it, the tanks associated, the air tanks associated with their current setup expire on September 1 of this year, and the lead time for ordering is anywhere from 90 to 100 days. And as we sit here today, there's about 130 days left between now and the time that those tanks expire.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's all I have.
Sure you don't have one more for us? Okay. Okay, that's, so you're done. That's
Don't shoot the
everything,
messenger.
all the communications? Okay. Cheryl, do you have anything? Ann? Matt? Gary Snyder? Citizens will be heard. Any citizens will be heard there. If you would please come forward. If you would sign your name and state your name for the record here. Thank you.
My name is Kathy O'Neill, and I live at 4633 Lake Pleasant Road, and I am a board member of Healthcare for All PA. Millcreek Township Supervisors, Township Treasurer, and Solicitor, I would first like to thank you each for your service to our community. Healthcare for All PA is a statewide nonprofit working on a health care reform in Pennsylvania. In 2009, we conducted a study of every municipality and school district in our Commonwealth to find how a single-payer, improved Medicare for All system would affect their health care costs. What we found supported our claim that such a system would save our public employers a lot of money, and also Millcreek Township. We would like to give you the opportunity to learn more about the Pennsylvania healthcare plan that was introduced in both the PA House and Senate last session. It will be reintroduced shortly into both houses this current session. This system would include doctor and other healthcare professionals, hospitals, dental, vision, addiction treatment, and mental health. In January and February of this year, our local chapter redid the 2009 study for Erie County schools and the most populated municipalities. I have sent a copy of that to Mr. Morgan, Mr. Groh, and Mr. Bach. I did not send that letter to Mr. Treasurer or Mr. Solicitor. A good primer to learn about what a single-payer improved Medicare for All would mean for Pennsylvania is the documentary Fix It, Healthcare at the Tipping Point. It is available, and I had sent the link to that. Single-payer Medicare for all would actually expand coverage and also lower drug prices. Thank you for your attention, and we look forward to discussing how the large healthcare costs sitting in your budget could be reduced substantially. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Neill.
Ms. O'Neill, one moment. Was that sent hard copy or electronically? 'Cause
I mailed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I received your copy. I haven't had a chance to read
that's
it yet.
okay.
Yeah, but
That's
I did
okay.
receive it, yes.
It was in the mail.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll
thank
just
you.
double check, thank you.
Okay. Hmm? I think it came last week. I didn't have a chance to read it yet.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Because everyone else before me has been really quiet and hard to hear in the back. Can you people in the back hear me? Thank
Okay.
you. Well, I also want to thank all of you for your service. And I'm going to give a copy of this to the treasurer so that you can see this.
Can I get your name? I know who you are, but the audience does.
Cindy Purvis,
Okay.
101 West 34th Street.
Okay.
In Erie.
Yes.
And I want to continue on what Kathy said. I'm also a board member of the statewide nonprofit Healthcare for All PA. Our 2009 study showed that if our healthcare bill had been approved, single payer / Medicare for all, had been approved back in 2009, the township would have saved close to $4 million annually on health care cost. So this bill, just to be very clear, is not health insurance. It's health care for all the citizens. In the study we did 10 years later, a few months ago, Millcreek Township would save $4,446,672 annually on health care costs, while every citizen, every staff member of the township would have comprehensive health care. And as I said again, this is not health insurance. This would take the place of health care premiums. So we urge you to understand what this is and to talk to the people that need to vote on this, Representative Bizzarro, Representative Mirsky, Senator Laughlin, and I think I've hit all of them. Have I got them all? Good, thanks. So thank you all, and we are very happy to meet with you to talk about this. But then again, the movie Fix It, which is available online, is a great, it's a documentary, and it's a great primer to understanding this. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Purvis.
Thank you. Purvis.
Okay. Okay.
I'll try to be quick.
Okay. Please state your name for the record and write it down, please. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
My name is Kimberly Mikowski, 4606 Asbury Road. Asbury Road. My front door faces Asbury Road. We currently have a septic. The sewer runs right by my house, and at that time, we had an option to hook up or to wait, and we waited. And now we don't have a choice. They want to run a line through my property to Lawndale. If I hook up in front of my house, I would still be charged $18,000 minimum. And that sounds like highway robbery. I'm not gonna use the line. My line will be right in front of my house. Why do I have to, because we're a corner, why do I have to pay the frontage and then that one?
Okay, you're on a corner lot, I'm assuming? That is one of the drawbacks about living on a corner. Yes, you get it from both directions there.
But I live on Asbury,
I know. I know.
not Lawndale.
Mhm.
So they're gonna charge me up Asbury.
And then
which
across
is
Lawndale.
stupid, and then right up,
Yeah,
I don't see the logic in it.
okay. I believe,
I'm not gonna use it.
okay. Matt, you look a little confused.
I
Gary?
don't believe the new line is not going up Asbury, it's only going from Lawndale to the west.
Asbury's already in place.
There's a force main on Asbury, is that correct, Gary? Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
And the gentleman said I just would need a grinder if I hook up right in front of my house.
Right.
So, and that would be logical, you would have less,
Yeah.
you would have a shorter tube or cookie stuff to get caught up. Then just send me through it with all the tree roots. There's no logic in this. There's no logic. It's just-
Yes, Gary?
We don't let people tie into the force main.
They said it could.
Well, like I said, I don't believe you talk about the way we don't let people do that.
No.
Because those are high pressure lines and your grinder pump
Yeah.
has pressure behind it. It usually came up the pump, that kind of pressure from those pumps.
So I'm screwed, I can't hook up in front of my house.
I don't know, we have to do pressure testing. Like I said, generally, this is what we don't let people tie into.
Right. Yeah.
Alleging I could, if everything
Okay.
checked out.
We will have to do some more checking with you. We'll, yeah, yeah,
Because I'm thinking, this is gonna add up to about $30,000.
understand.
We're retired.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
If I could, my recollection is that the costs were being allocated evenly among all of the properties that were being affected. They weren't being allocated according to frontage.
Okay, so much.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, you indicated that you were paying double because of your frontage, but it's my recollection that the costs for this project were being allocated equally among all of the properties that were being required to connect
Right, 18,000
for everyone.
and less for land. And you didn't do it by property footage, you just, everybody.
The township has the option of doing it by, linear foot or by, it can distribute the costs equally amongst everyone. In this case, it was determined to be appropriate to do it in that fashion. That appeared to be the most equitable to everybody who was going to have to connect.
Yeah.
So in that instance, you would have, both frontages wouldn't have been counted towards it. So both of your frontages wouldn't have been counted towards it, whereas if we'd have done it by frontage, you may very well have been paying more if we had done it in that fashion. But we didn't do it in that fashion.
So, unless your test works out, I'm stupid.
Well, you're paying for your lot, is what Mr. Shaw's
I
telling
already paid for the Asbury Road. Why do I have to pay for it again?
Well, like I said, I'll have to do some.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to do some checking on it. We don't have an answer for you right
Yeah,
now, and I'm sorry.
I would guess if you indicated you've already paid for Asbury Road, if you made a payment to the sewer authority for the Asbury Road line, that would be an important factor for us to know. It's our understanding that no payments were made. We don't have any record of it. So if in fact you made a payment with respect to the sewer line that was installed along Asbury Road, that would be useful information for us. Yeah. And that may very well impact what happens.
Okay. We'll be more than happy to discuss it with you, so give us a ring tomorrow, and we'll get down, figure out a time that we get together and talk about it. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Citizens to be heard? Okay. Okay, I do see we have some students out here. I don't know if all of you had your homework signed by one of the supervisors. If you didn't, come up and see us after the meeting, okay? Nothing else?
What was the guy's name that left early?
Yeah, we know there was one student.
Yeah,
that
one student left
that
early.
booked out early.
Yeah, well, we got him on tape
Mr.
anyway.
Chamberlain can dime
Yeah,
him out.
we got him on tape. That will worry.
Come on, you guys had to stay.
Come on, rat him out, okay?
Come on.
Okay. Anyway, let's call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yep, at 8:40. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, we're out of here.